This week we're doing Q&A here at the House of Power. So thanks to everybody out there that sent in a question over the interwebs. Let's get straight to it. Welcome back to the Power Public YouTube channel. Today's video we're covering all those Q&As, so let's get to it. The first question comes from Ray, and Ray wants to know about brake pads. Ray's question's in regards to the compound, hard, medium or soft. What I say, Ray, is for your compounds, if you've got a hard compound pad, it won't wear out very quick, but you won't get a lot of friction between the pad and the disc. So if you're going into the brake zone and you're pressing the brake pedal too hard and then it's locking up onto the disc and you're sliding too much, you're probably going to go to the softer pad. When the pad's too soft, it's going to bite too hard. You also chew through it a lot quicker. So if you're running out of pads in one event, you might be too soft, or you're getting too much sensitivity in the brake pedal and you can't quite find that threshold for maximum braking and maximum braking performance, then you want to go to a slightly harder pad. Most guys generally go for the softer pad possible. The next question comes from Matt, and he has got a question in regards to the DD2, the shift wire, or the extra earth wire you can put on the engine to change when the power valve opens, and also too about KZ spindles on his CRG. Now Matt, what I'd suggest with your power valve question is go to your local track and put the wire on, off, and write down the results. Now you want to do it at your local track, the track that you're most familiar with, because it's only 300 RPMs difference, so you want to be kind of sensitive to the changes. I guess when the power valve's closed, you're going to get increased bottom end. So if you had a track with a lot of low speed corners, or you're just on the cusp where the power valve's not closing through one corner, you might want to put it on to get that lower RPM close point of the power valve. Otherwise you might want to take it off. So do it at your local track, write down the results so that you know what to look for yourself in your own kart package, and then you can go and apply it at every other track. As for the KZ spindles on the CRG, I'm not too sure of the inclination and what it all means. I could take a guess is probably how much the kingpin is lying back, or on the spindle, so how much jacking. I guess the 11 degree is going to give you a bit more jack, a bit more twist through the kart, and the 10 degree a bit less. But on the Tony kart, we don't have that. I haven't used it, so I can't really tell you. Maybe someone else might be able to answer this question in the comment section below for Matt. Next question is from William Lewis, and he's asking about his old style clutch and it's not rotating. I'd say it's probably broken a shoe off. Anytime you spin your rear wheel and the engine starts to rotate, generally the clutch is broken or it's all bound up. Something's gone wrong inside, so you just need to remove your clutch drum and check out those clutch shoes. We do have a video on removing clutch shoes. You can check that in the description below. Okay, the next question comes from Adam Crossman. Now he's a bigger driver and he's asking, is there a disadvantage or an advantage for a smaller driver with lead on and the bigger driver with no lead on for the same category? What I'd say, it's the same weight, same power, same tyre for the same distance. So it doesn't matter if you're taller and you've got less lead, or you're a smaller, lighter driver with more lead, the karts have still got to accelerate a mass around a distance, the same amount of grip from the tyres, because we all run on the same tyre. So there should be no advantage or disadvantage. The main advantage, disadvantage is the actual minimum weight, whether you're on it or over it. If you can get down to your minimum class weight, 162 here in Australia for the category I race in, then there should be no disadvantage at all between you and the other competitors. Also too, he's asking about a higher cog. I'm only guessing that as you're putting more sprockets on, yes, that will give you better acceleration, but it will give you less top end speed compared to your competitors. So if you can run the least amount of teeth at your track, so everyone's on an 80 and you're on a 78, you should have more top end and be able to affect better passing maneuvers at the end of the main straights, as long as you can still get it off the corner perfectly. Next question is from Geordie Schumacher, and he's asking about gear ratios. He wants to go from a 1277 up to a 1377 for more kph and what effect that'll have on the engine. Geordie, what I say is the engine's fine. It loves gear ratios, it loves going fast. I've geared them right up to a 15 tooth front sprocket for a Junior Max. Had them up to about 126 kph, but it's on a very, very long straight where we're coming on to the straight at about 98, 96 kilometers an hour. And it was a 500 meter straight section. So we're only really gaining 20 kph down that long straight section. Now, you can gear the engines for top end, but you will sacrifice a bit of bottom end performance. So it's relative to your competitors. If you can run less teeth on the rear or a bigger sprocket on the front and have more top end speed, you can affect better passing maneuvers because you're going faster compared to your competitors. But it won't come out of the corners the same. So it's a balancing act. What's the best way for a new parent into karting to get the setup for their cadet kids? Kev, that's a great question. What I'd say is we've got a Racing Rituals tutorial series. You can go check that out through our Patreon link or off our website. Otherwise, you can go to the track a lot and just practice little things. But generally, most of the guys in the karting world that sell your go-kart, they're going to set it up like what you call a standard setup. And if you're only new, just stick with that and really focus on your tire pressures. It sounds overly simplistic, and it is to a point. But if you get the tire pressures wrong, nothing's going to work. So focus on the tire pressures, and that alone, that's enough for a new guy that doesn't really know about go-karts per se, because all the other little axle changes, hubs, wheels, cambers, casters, and all those other little things just seem to complicate it. Keep it simple for the kids. Take them to the track, let them have heaps of fun, and just enjoy your go-karting. Next one's from Dario, and he's asking about different types of tyres and which are grippier, MGs, Dunlops, Bridgestones. Now, what I'd say, Dario, is the MG, there is a green tyre, which is super soft and sticky. You can try different compounds of Bridgestones, but most categories that we race here in Australia and other places in the world have a control tyre. So you're going to probably have to run the control tyre for your class. If you're just going out and cutting some happy laps or hot laps and there's no restrictions on your tyres, you can go to the 6-inch tyre that the supercart guys run. They're normally pretty soft and pretty sticky. Also, too, you can just call your local kart shop and ask them for the softest compound tyre. Bridgestone have got them, MG have got them, Dunlop have got them. So that's what I'd recommend. Next question's from Brody, and he's asking about a dyno specific question on the X30 old style versus new style for tag restricted. Brody, we'll cover this in a different video, so stay tuned. Okay, the next question comes from Lottie Palmer, and he's asking about setup. How do you get the best setup for yourself personally when everyone else is giving you different setup recommendations? Well, what I'd say is leave your kart in a pretty standard N axle, the right width in the front and the rear to the factory settings, and focus on your tire pressures, and try not to just randomly do crazy things to your go-kart, because it's way easier to wreck your go-kart setup than actually fix it. So if you can't highlight the problem to apply a solution, well, what you need to do is actually work on your driving and focusing on the problem that you've really got, and then try to apply a solution to that problem. If you just do what your mate next door has, and he's got a different problem to you, you're going to apply his solution to your problems, and you're probably going to introduce a problem to your own go-kart. So what I would suggest is either do nothing or focus on your own problems and then come up with a solution and write it down. If it works, great. If it doesn't, great. Because if you wreck it, you just go the other way. So if you went to a softer axle and it's totally terrible, well, that didn't work, so you go to the harder axle. So it really is, keep it simple. Start with your standard setups at most tracks. It works pretty good, and then just dial in from that. If you find something that works for you, it's probably not going to work for me or for anyone else. So, that's why they're custom tunable. You're going to tune the kart to your specific handling requirements. So sort of filtering out the other people's stuff, it's good for ideas, but it's not relative to your own problems. Thanks to everybody out there in the community that has subscribed already. We're nearly at 5,000 here on YouTube. So thank you very much. If you find these videos helpful, please consider subscribing and turning on those pesky notifications. Okay, the next question is from Geordie Schumacher, and he's asking about the seat position and whether we sit it all the way to the left or closer to the center. What I say, Geordie, is when you get your go-kart, well, we do with Tony Karts a lot here, the right side, or the engine side seat stay, is pretty hard to move, if not impossible, because it's welded to the kart and you can't really bend it out of the way. So if you're a small guy, put your seat in and you'll just have a few packers here on the left side. And then as the seats get bigger and your driver gets bigger, it's naturally going to go more to the left, more to the brakes anyway. But you can bend that seat post up, but the guys that design the karts are normally pretty sharp, cluey guys, and they're going to put those seat posts in the optimum position. So I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel there. put the seat in, go for a spin. You can, if you want to get technical, you can weigh it. And if your corner weights in your rear are off, you can move a bit of ballast or the battery over to the left. And if you're not using any ballast, well then you might have to move your seat to the left, and you can do that with your seat spaces. Okay, the next question is from Erin Sell. Shout out, Erin. And she's asking, what's the best place to put lead on your kart if you've got a light driver and a lot of lead, I guess. And what I'd say is if you've got a lot of lead to put on the kart, you can do one of two things. You could go to the track and slowly add 2 kilos here, 2 kilos there, and start to look for the problem. So start with the, say, 4 kilos on the back, and then you could put another 2 kilos on the side. And if you've got a lot of understeer, you could chuck another 2 kilos up by your ankles on the very front of the kart. Otherwise, if you want to get technical, you can get some corner weight scales and put the kart on, and then you can move the lead around on the kart to see how your balance is and just adjust as necessary. Next question is from Daniel Hughes, and he's asking for the best oil in the KA100. Okay, everyone's got their own opinion on oil. I like the Motul GP2T, Shell M, castor oil, Vroom fully synthetic as well. Also too, you can use a Maxima 927. So there's 4 oils you can choose from. Is one better than the other? I can't measure the difference here on the engine dyno. They all make the same power. So I'd say none is better than others other than for wear. So ask your engine builder what he recommends and use that. Next question is from Darren Silcock, and he's asking about ethanol in fuel. My thoughts on ethanol fuel is it's probably not the best for your go-kart. I like to use premium BP 98 racing fuel here in Australia. It's available at all servos. It's been pretty consistent for me over the years. Other than that, I'm going to use Shell V-Power. You can use E85. I know the turbocharged 4-stroke guys use that in their race cars because they can use extra boost, turn the timing up, and the ethanol really resists detonation because it's going to vaporize a lot more because of the moisture in the ethanol. So you have to pump it right into the cylinder. Now, for a racing 2-stroke, we don't really suffer a lot of detonation issues. So I don't think ethanol is something that you're going to want to use for your 2-stroke racing engine. I've never even tried it here on the dyno because I'm pretty sure it's outside of the rules. And most, say, big races you're going to go to, they've got a control fuel that you've got to use, and it's normally pump 98. That's what I use. That's what I practice with. As for the ethanol, yeah, I'm not too sure. I wouldn't use it myself personally. The next question is from Wes, and he's asking the best way to put the snipers on the front brake setup of your DD2 or KZ kart. What I like to do is I put some zip ties on the brake pedal and lock the brakes on, and then I just set the snipers, the magnetic snipers, up on the outside of the brake disc, and that gives me a pretty good estimation. Other than that, you can modify your snipers so they fit inside on, say, like the Tony Kart spindles. There's some pins that come out, so you can actually machine some grooves into your snipers so that they fit inside those grooves. But that's a little bit more of a mission, so just put the sniper on to the outside diameter of the brake disc, lock the brake pedal on, and the snipers will sit up there just perfectly. Okay, the next question is from JPD, and it's just a great question really, and it's asking what to do to your setup for old tyres versus new tyres. What I say, JPD, is always set up your kart on new tyres, and then it's always a compromise on old tyres. So you can make the changes, otherwise just put up with the bad handling, because you know it's going to come back to your good setup with your new tyres, and that's what is a true constant. New tyres is the only true constant in go-karting. Everything else is changing, like the day, the temperature, and even in the tyres you can get little fluctuations in the tyres depending on how old they are. So what I would suggest is always do your setup on new tyres and disregard all the information that you get for your old tyre setups. The next question is from BShep, and he's asking, if you install a restrictor on a Rotax Evo or other engine, is it important to change the main jet? And is there any damage to the engine if you don't? Traditionally, when you're running a non-Evo engine or an open spec, you're going to have a richer jet than when you put the restrictor in. So if it had a 125 in the open category, when you put the restrictor, you might lean it out to, say, a 120. It's normally down 2 jets, but that's what we do here. Everyone's different, obviously. Other guys run 125, so it's really a suck and see on that one. You're not going to damage it if it's too rich. You can if it's too lean, and that's about it. Next question comes from Big Brother, and he's asking what's the best way to check your sweep angle with your snipers. Now, I've only just sort of cottoned onto this in the last week. Darren Silcock was out there on Wednesday night, and we did it to my kart. It worked perfectly fine. So all we did was we got the tape measure on the fuel tank and measured out at 90 degrees, swept the steering wheel through its motion so that the laser comes down to its, I guess, its lowest point and then comes back a little bit, say 42 millimeters, and then just make sure it's the same for both sides. So if you get a measurement of 40 and the other side a measurement of 50, then you're going to want to halve it. So you loosen off your tie rods, make it the adjustment, put the laser up to 45 millimeters in our example on the ruler, and then go back to the other side, reduce the 50 mil side down to 45, and you should have roughly the same measurement both sides. Then put your wheels back to straight ahead, and you can set your toe, if you need to, equally about the center. What I might do is I might cover this in another video because it's a little bit complicated to follow along just into the camera. So what we'll do is we'll do a sweep angle setup in the next couple of weeks. So thanks for the question, big brother. So the next question comes from CNG Grant, and he's asking, when you go into a corner and you load it up, you go-kart that is, should you move out a little bit, and then on the exit, should you move back in? Depending on the corners and what works for you, I like to sometimes move my body ever so slightly, but it's mostly, for me, I have my shoulders back in the cart, and when I go into a corner, I'm sort of turning my head to look around the corner. That makes me articulate my shoulders a little bit rather than actually leaning out of the seat. So I kind of try to stay pretty locked in a center position myself personally. I see a lot of great drivers doing that too, so I kind of just sort of copy those guys. And I stay centered, have my head upright, nice and balanced, shoulders pinned back. And if anything, I'm looking around the corner, which is moving my shoulders more than leaning out of the cart. So I hope that helps you. Okay, so that's all we got time for this week's Q&A. We're going to split it. We've got so many questions off the interwebs, so thanks to everyone that's asking a question out there. Stay tuned next week. We're going to answer the rest of the questions. If you like the video, please consider subscribing and turning on the notifications. Give us a thumbs up, costs nothing, means a lot. Shout out to everyone on Instagram and Facebook at Power Republic. Go to our website, www.powerrepublic.com.au. Grab yourself a t-shirt or a brand new racing product. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Okay, so the next question comes from Big Brother 61 23 98 6112 with the same amount of rotational. So, yeah, thanks. Can you cut that last bit out?